In this video, I'm going to show you guys how I made this Camoufly UKG style drop. Alright, so before we get into it, a couple things I want to say. Free FLP, first link in the description of this video. You know what to do, you can go ahead and download it. If things aren't working, be sure to comment down in the comment section of this video what's not working. I try to reply to all the comments. Second of all, sorry for the bad audio. As you can see, I'm not at home right now. I'm visiting my family in Asia, and basically I don't have a mic over here. And also, we've got this really weird setup. I have this like super deep chair here. You know, for our common interest here, let's make this video short, snappy, and informing. If you liked this video by any chance, be sure to subscribe. Alright, so without further ado, let's start with the drums. Now the drums are actually from my free drum kit, which is also linked in the description of this video. I've got this fat kick here that's normally hitting an E note, but I've just pitched it down 100 cents. So we bring it to the D sharp key, which is what we are using for this drop. And as you can see here is our side chain. Now I always pair these two elements together because they are meant for each other. I decide how long the side chain is, which is just a fruity balance on this mixer channel here, modulating the volume. You can see I choose how long the side chain is depending on how long the kick and the sub is. So actually I should make the side chain a bit longer because the sub only ends at this point here. If you don't know, the neutral state for something in FL Studio is always 0.8. And then the end here, I mean, I talk about this a lot, but at the end here, I've actually made it so that it goes back to 0. That's because the beginning of our next automation is also at 0. And what I found with these keyframe based automations is that they are kind of delayed a little bit because it's processing live as you play back. There's latency or whatever you may call it, but there's a delay. Small little details, again, they matter. All right, here's our clap. That's another clap from my free drum kit. We've just put it into this mixer channel here next to our kick. And you can see we're just reducing the bass and upping the treble a little bit because our kick doesn't have any treble. You see, actually, I've just slightly used sample start offset by 1% because the beginning of this kick has quite a lot of transient. And I thought it'd be nice to get rid of this transient to make it more moody. You find with a lot of like deep house and moody kind of stuff, sometimes the kicks don't have that strong transients, but then you gotta make sure that your hats and your claps are hitting that treble space that your kick is now no longer occupying. Otherwise, you got kind of a lo-fi sound, which is not necessarily what we're going for here. Again, let's take a look at this parametric EQ on the clap. Just at around 13k hertz, we're just boosting the treble with a high shelf. Both the kick and the clap and the hats are going into a drum bus, which we're just using Nani as a compressor, and you know, use any compressor you like the sound of, it's just your choice. Now you don't have to compress your drums together. It's a personal kind of choice. I like the way it makes it sound crunchy, and I like the way I can that way control the elements clashing together. They will have to be forced together somehow anyway. So if I can control how they get clashed together, I don't know, maybe it's just a little bit like that. Okay. Our main hat here. Really cool hat that has that sort of camouflage style sound to it. We're just hitting it on every offbeat, very simple. And again, boosting that treble way out of like normal levels here because again, we have that space. So when you hear the kick, clap, and hat together. And then finally, we have this hat loop that I said that I was also bringing into that same compression drum bus. It's very low on the background, and you can find this one in my free drum kit also. Just some texture to fill in that space. You can, instead of this, use a percussive loop as well. Anything you like to kind of fill in that upper treble, low level space. You know, it just can't be too clean here. It's got to be a little bit filled in. You know, you don't want too many blanks. As you can see, we're using stereo enhancer just to make this loop quite wide and sound more interesting in a certain way. And then we're just cutting off anything mids and below. We don't need that. And boosting the treble a little bit again. So now all those kicks and claps and hats together sound like this. I'm really happy with the way that turned out. That was relatively simple, right? All right, to get into the melodic elements, first we have this loop here in D sharp minor. Now what I like to normally do to create stuff like this is use something like Quanta, which is a granulizer. I hope I said that right. And you basically take a vocal sample and just use a single frame of that vocal sample, and it granulizes it. It plays it like a synth. Alternative ways to find a sample that's granulized like that, sort of vocal chops, Skrillex style. And then what you do is you grab a one beat, go automate volume, and now you create that wave sound that's playing. And kind of be freehand with it, make it sound freehand. Obviously it's already built into the sample, but that's how you would recreate that sound. Then just putting that into the sidechain we built earlier. Simple as that. Alright, then we've got this actual vocal chop coming up here, and without the volume automation, it sounds like this. So get yourself a vocal chop and pitch it way up to make it sound a little bit chipmunky, but use a formant pitcher so it doesn't sound too chipmunky. So what you can do here, I heavily recommend you look into potentially buying this or getting it on a Black Friday sale. Little Alter Boy. You can see I'm pitching it up 7 semitones, I'm not sure, I'm always confused. 7 not like bits out of 12, 7 bits out of 12. But keeping the formant relatively at around 1 or 0 where it's the neutral state. If you were to hear this just fully pitched up by 7, it would sound like this. That's the chipmunk. And then here is using the formant of the original sample. And without that pitch up, it sounds like this. So obviously we're pitching it up to get into that same key. Cutting off the bass and below, we don't need that, and cutting off some of the harsh trebles that the sample and any artifacts it might have. But then adding an OTT with over 60% or 50 to 60% depth and boosting some of the highs and mids. You can't see it because my OTT is bugged. This automation here, as you can see, doesn't make much sense without the context. So here with the metronome. Obviously, we're creating a mad amount of swing. Swing basically is when something isn't hitting on one of the fourth out of a beat. So this is a beat, this is 1/4 of a beat, this is 2/4 of a beat, aka half or off beat. Then this is the 3/4. That makes any sense? This would be if it was on the 4s. And this is it off those 4s. You see, much more swaggy. That's just the way that works. Now I'm gonna get into the bass line and the sub, which will explain why we've chosen this swing. So here we go. These 2 serum patches are from my Metamorphosis preset pack. If you want to check them out, link is in the description of this video, but in the FLP file I'll be sharing, they will be consolidated as an audio file. So here's our first bass. Square wave and an interesting sort of modulated sine wave wavetable. This square wave just has 1 voice, while the oscillator B, which is that sine wave, is 2 voices in unison with a little bit of detune, making it sound really wide. Also 7 semitones up to create that sort of chimey effect. It's what I call it because that's when I figured it out, but I guess you can call it what you like, creating that sort of upper note. And then we're modulating this low pass filter with LFO1 with a slight attack. Then a compressor and some slight distortion on that. And then we've got this sub. Very simple, following the exact same notes as the bass line. And as you can see now, I can show you the same principle applies. This is the swing that we were talking about earlier. Alright, so once again, if you want to check out and play around with these and use these Serum presets, you can find them in the description of this video. That pack's got over 60 presets just like these 2. It's been in the works for years. I've just decided to finally put it all together. Anyways, when we add the sidechain back into that, these 2 Serum presets sound like this. Obviously, when you've got a bass line and a sub, make very much sure that your bass line isn't hitting the sub and your sub isn't hitting the baseline. These two can conflict and you want them to marry happily, give each other space. Bingo, simple as that. Add the kick back in and we can sit back and just relax. Very short video. I had to make this in a pinch. You know, I want to spend some quality time here with my family, but I really wanted to get this video out. Now, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, all I can do is say thank you and see if you'd like to subscribe if you haven't already. Next time I see you guys, I will probably be back in London. Alright guys, peace.